Alright guys, TouchGrower here back again today. Hope you're enjoying your day so far once again, and today we are going to talk about this rumor that has come out that MentaL, a former Gears of War pro, is going to be moving to the Los Angeles Guerrillas as their substitute for this season. A very interesting move, to be honest, given he doesn't have much experience at all playing Call of Duty, especially at the professional level or even the amateur level, to be honest. And a lot of amateur players are very frustrated with this move, believe it's a kick in the teeth, you know, an insult, disrespectful that this move has been made to the challengers guys that have been competing so hard for an opportunity like this over the last couple of seasons. However, I do not think it's quite that simple. Intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you are new as always. I would greatly appreciate it, and so would the YouTube algorithm. Before we get into things, this from Nadox as well, talking about the slide in this game, and you can see this on screen right now. It seems like if you slide and make enough lateral movement, you can get absolutely ridiculous slides, and well, we've seen this a couple of times so far. Hopefully they manage to fix this for the beta in a few weeks time, which I believe they probably will manage to do. We get this as well though. So Ake says, what's wrong with the dolphin dive, man? Abizi says, nah, I was putting you down in World War II ranked play when there was a dolphin dive and no slide, of course. Come on, Pat, you don't believe that I could have gunned you with one hand. I was bullying players like you for years when you couldn't slide. You mean when I couldn't play because I was underage? You know, Abizi only turned like 18 over the last couple of seasons. You were still playing. Like I said, it was putting you down in ranked play. I don't remember seeing you on the leaderboard. So in World War II ranked play, there was like a leaderboard system. You could have guys right at the top, and a lot of the pro players had a number of different accounts up there, actually. I had 3 accounts in the top 10, says Abizi. And then Ake says, yeah, my bad, I was busy at the end of the year. Pulls out the image of winning the World Championship, of course, with Evil Genius. Says, hey, that looks like me last year, winning the 2019 World Championships, of course, did Abizi on the United squad at the time. If I recall, there was a crazy slide in Black Ops 4. Yeah, because we won of that. So it's quite an interesting discussion. It makes sense that Ake tends to dominate on games that don't have these advanced movements, or at least throughout his Call of Duty history, he's been better at the games that don't have these like slide mechanics and jetpacks and all this kind of stuff. Whereas, well, to be honest, I kind of like it because it adds some degree of skill gap between the players who are the best in the movement and players that aren't so good. But so, yeah, the dolphin dive was kind of fun as well. But the slide also isn't tragic as long as it isn't super broken, which maybe it has been over the last couple of seasons. You could certainly argue that. GodRx says this as well. Thanks to a couple of people for pointing this out to me. Adam says, who is running challenges with me? And this is kind of pretty relevant given that GodRx has been obviously a great player, was on the Minnesota Rocker throughout the Modern Warfare season, but may not be getting a starting spot or even a substitute spot in next season's Call of Duty play. But someone who will, is a substitute at least, is going to be UYU, or former UYU, MentaL. As he says a few days ago, decided to step down and pursue a career in Call of Duty. Thanks to UYU for everything and my teammates for being the best teammates possible. Glad to have dominated the way we did for my final event with the team. I think they went like 16-0, like to win the $100,000, the final event he played. Like they didn't even lose a single map. I don't watch much Gears of War, but whenever I have, this guy has been absolutely dominating. I think he's considered like the best player of all time in Gears of War, or something to that degree. And yeah, whenever I watch this guy, he's just an absolute freak of nature. Apparently he's super good at so many different games as well. And I think a lot of teams right now are probably looking at a guy like Shotzi. And yes, Shotzi played a fair amount of Black Ops 4 during the off-season with Illy and all this kind of stuff. So, you know, Dallas Empire knew he was going to be a good player. And MentaL hasn't played quite the same degree of Call of Duty throughout the off-season, although he has been playing a fair few like online tournaments and chals and stuff like this. And he's definitely an absolute freak of nature in terms of the gameplay. Like he's so good at well, whatever game you actually decide to put him in. Now, whether he'll be good at well, this new game to the same degree that other players have been coming over from different titles, that remains to be seen, right? But he definitely has the potential on paper to be like a super good player. So it's growing that CDL Intel comes out with yesterday, Gears of War legend MentaL expected to sign with the Los Angeles Guerrillas as a substitute player. This is how it looks then. So it seems like he'll be added to this squad. It remains to be seen whether he will be actually playing on a challengers team, like an academy team with the Los Angeles Guerrillas, like whether they're going to own an academy squad. But it looks like the team he's going to play with is Nero Poison, so up and comer like Search and Destroy star from the North American region, Exceed, of course, former from the Minnesota Rocker, and also OpTic Gaming's Chino, or former OpTic Gaming Chino, of course. So pretty cool to see. MentaL should be on this squad. So MentaL, Chino, Exceed, and Nero Poison looks like the challengers team for now. Whether there'll be an official academy team for the LAG remains to be seen, but it looks like MentaL will be on the roster as a bench player. Definitely going to keep a lot of these starting players on their toes. That's why I like this move, to be honest, for a couple of different reasons. LAG have a guy like MentaL who could be an unbelievable talent, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a second, but it's good for MentaL as well, because it definitely keeps the starting players, as I say, on their toes. Like, you don't know who MentaL is going to replace. It's somewhat unclear what role exactly he could fit into on this team, and definitely if you're a starting player, the rumor has it as the starting team, as you can see right here, Vivid, Apathy, Silly, and Assault as it stands stands right now, you've got to be worried really if you're any of these guys that your spot could potentially be under attack from MentaL on the bench. But it makes a lot of sense from MentaL's perspective as well, because joining this team, which is not going to be like a great team in the league, I suppose. I don't imagine this team is going to be like a top 4, top 6 contender or anything like that, but we'll have to see how it goes if this actually does get announced. MentaL is therefore in a good position to potentially take over from some of these guys and move on to actually the starting lineup on the team. So I think it makes sense for MentaL, I think it makes sense for the Los Angeles Guerrillas, but some people aren't necessarily too happy that this move has been made. Let's look through his career real quick. So this is like the Gears of War, like all the events he's played. I mean, like, just look at this. The number of ones on the left-hand side here. Obviously, some of these are like online stuff, but yeah, this is just out of control. This is on the OpTic gaming team as well back in the day. In Gears of War 4, when they used to have like the best team in the game, all these ones, MentaL was considered like the stand-up player on these teams. Pretty remarkable to see, quite frankly. However, people aren't too happy with this, and I can definitely understand why this is the case. Like, a lot of amateur players who have grinded the challenger scene see this guy who's never played a professional Call of Duty match in his life come over to the scene and, you know, already get a substitute spot on the squad. Now, I understand this, especially from the perspective of, I suppose, like up-and-coming amateur players who want to get a shot like this. Then again, we've seen in the previous season, the guys like Awakening, Mac, all these type of players that we'll look at in a second, did get their opportunity on a starting lineup, or at least on the bench for, you know, for a number of the professional teams that season. The real players I think this affects is guys like Felony, guys like Goonjar, guys like Parasite, who have been around the scene for a long time, have been professional players for a time, and are now, you know, maybe not quite as good as they were in terms of individual talent. I'm not saying that's the case with all of them, but yeah, maybe they're not quite the players they were a few years ago, and you know, they're dominating the challenger scene still to some degree. Like Felony and co won the world championship, or at least the challenger side, but they're unlikely to get picked up to a professional team, because the problem is with guys like Felony, guys like Goonjar, is that you know what their ceiling is going to be. You know what you're getting out of Felony on his best possible day, you know what you're getting out of Goonjar on their best possible day, but the problem is for them that you don't know the potential of some of these amateur guys, and you also don't necessarily know the potential of a guy like MentaL, right? Like, if you pick up Felony, for example, you know he's not going to be a top 10 player in the game at any point. Like, you know, like, that part of his career is past him. Like, he's not going to be as good as he was. Could definitely be a serviceable player and an asset to a team, but he's not going to be a top 10 player or a top 5 player that's going to take your team to the next level. Whereas a guy like MentaL, with all this talent for another esport, yes, he hasn't played Call of Duty in a bit, but of course, like Shotzi came over from Halo and went straight onto a starting team with Dallas. You can say it's slightly different Halo Gears of War, which definitely you can argue. You can definitely say that Shotzi played a fair bit more Black Ops 4, so they knew he was going to be good throughout the previous season, but at the same time, it's definitely possible that a guy as talented on the sticks as MentaL can actually take over and become a fantastic player for whatever organization wants to pick him up. So I definitely think it makes a lot of sense, because yes, it's a risky move, but he has so much more upside potential than some of the amateur guys. And well, this is some of the discussion. Absolutely zero respect for pro players who aren't in the league, and also for top AMs who have been consistently competing and putting everything into the game, but yet they get someone from a different game. Welcome to the CoD League. Gentleman Looty says this. How much of an insult is this to the amateur scene if this is true? I believe it is true. Not necessarily speaking for myself, but what's the point putting hours upon hours of blood, sweat and tears into a game to have someone who's never loaded into a hardpoint take your place? And Roper here, the coach of the Team War team that did so well in the amateur region of the European side last season, is you know, not too happy about it. But you know, to the same degree, like some of those guys like PT, like Dave on that squad, have had their time, I suppose, in the professional league a couple of years ago, and if you're a pro team picking those guys up, you kind of know what the ceiling is going to be of those players. Whereas for a guy like MentaL, you don't know what the ceiling potentially is. The ceiling could be so high that you'd be regretting the decision if another team managed to go and snap him up. Similar discussion already, and JCap then comes out with this. This does suck for a lot of former pros and top amateurs, including some of my friends who have been playing COD for years and won't get a spot this year, but the move makes a lot of sense, and frankly, anyone who's upset about it is salty and quite frankly dumb. And well, Parasite says this is wild if true, but never mind. Doesn't really say too much more than this. Maybe he's not too frustrated with the situation, but I imagine it must be pretty frustrating for Parasite, right? Like, he's in a position, he's done his best to try and get a spot, you know, listed all his accolades, talking to different organizations to try and get an amateur spot, or at least a spot on a substitute on a team so he can play the challenger side at least while he tries to get into a starting lineup. So I can certainly see why this is frustrating for Parasite. Like, he's tried to reach out to professional teams, list his accolades, all this kind of stuff to get onto a team, and he's definitely still a very talented player. But if I was an organizational owner, I kind of know what Parasite brings to the table, whereas I don't necessarily know what MentaL could bring to the table, and well, could revolutionize my team and make it one of the best in the game. Who knows at some point? Definitely investing in like young talent, or let's say unproven talent that could be fantastic, is probably a good route to take for some of these teams that are on the lower half of the league, as the LAG were last season. This comes out from Bids and Chain as well, like two very prominent amateur players in the European region. Being a player in the Challengers Passion Pit and seeing the LAG rumoured sub is just a massive punch in the face. Bit conflicting, as Chain says, because he will transfer over and be really good, but it's a question of if he deserves the chance to show it off this early when there's amateurs who realistically shouldn't have anything else to prove, given they've been grinding challenges. So interesting arguments, I think, already. That's what I said on stream. I wouldn't have minded if he actually attempted it and proved he is worth it. Select players from Renegades, of course, in the APAC region, Singularity and War, who've accomplished more on LAN than the vast majority of any past or current challenger. But who am I kidding? LAN apparently does not matter anymore, says Chain in this one. But this is the discussion really that comes out from CoD Gamepedia as well. To the amateurs unhappy about the rumours of Gears of War player MentaL being signed as a substitute for LAG, you're forgetting this is a business for a lot of these teams. Players like MentaL and Sensor bring more to a franchise than their brand and fans. And MattG says this isn't a brand move, this is taking a shot on a player with a ton of success in another console game. The ability to win is something that not all players have. That's what is being valued here. It's a low risk, presumably relatively low cost move with a huge potential upside. And as you can see in this tweet, the players that were picked up last season, Mac, Awakening, Spark Vivid, Draza Hollow, these are all guys that are relatively unproven talents right from the amateur side. So MentaL honestly kind of fits into this bracket, but also with the added benefit that he's proven to be able to win in other titles. And well, if he becomes another Shotzi, LAG genuinely have a good chance, and I would not be surprised to see him on a starting lineup at some point this season. I imagine he will continue to improve throughout the season in the amateur side, in the challenger side, as Shotzi did before he became the best player in the game and won the league MVP. We saw similar things with Frosty as well. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like if you did, subscribe if you are new. As always, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.